Welcome back to some of the best stories from r/TalesFromTechSupport. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's take a look at the first story. It's called Home Support. I'm the most knowledgeable in the family and at least trained in programming, so I'm the go-to support in my family. This story starts when my parents, my mom, wanted Wi-Fi at home. I promised I would get them a router and help set it up, and so I did. The exact same I got for myself, just to make sure that if my mom, who thinks she's very good with computers, has fiddled with something she shouldn't have, I'd find out what without having to go visit. I set it up with a randomized password, as long as the router would allow. That was not enough for her, so I enabled MAC filtering on top, explaining it all to her, why it was safe, etc. Show her how she connects and how she can disconnect, as that was important to her too. Then my mom calls me in somewhat of a panic. As I live about an hour from them, this will have to be done over the phone. She's really upset and tells me of all these people being connected to her Wi-Fi, and she can see them on her computer. How can she get them off? Now, wait, you see them on the computer? This was about 2005 to 2008ish, so the question was how. As I finally get her to calm down just a bit, I get her to tell me how. She right-clicked on the Wi-Fi symbol, and there they all were. So hard not to laugh outright. I again tell her that those are the other Wi-Fi's, mom, not people connected to yours. Another long and very educational talk later, and it seems like she's come to accept it. A few months later, when I'm home for a few days visit, I notice a long network cable connected to the router, placed under the rug in the hallway, and then into the furthest corner of the study, where it's disconnected on the floor next to the computer. My mom proceeds to inform me that she no longer trusts the Wi-Fi with all those people on there, so she took it on herself to connect the cable. She only connects it when she wants to use the internet, and disconnects it afterwards. I'm standing there, biting my tongue. That would have been all good. If it wasn't for that, the router she connected the cable to was the Wi-Fi router, still happily broadcasting, and her computer was mostly connected to the Wi-Fi, apart from when she put the cable in there. The next story is called The Data is Worth It. We had a client drop off their Surface Pro, saying that it won't boot. Sure enough, it just keeps booting into a blue screen. Tried booting from recovery media, and startup repair keeps failing, and there are no restore points. It does let me do a clean install of Windows 10, but this would wipe the machine, so I give the customer a call before doing so. It should be fine, because the guy should be using Google Drive and shared drives for anything important. Well, it just so happens that this customer has a dissertation on the Surface that he has already received a 7-day extension on 3 days ago. In true customer fashion, he does not have this backed up anywhere, and so he begins begging for any other option at all to get the data. I start looking into how to disassemble the Surface, and of course the thing is designed to never be taken apart, ever. In fact, the video I watched of the guy demonstrating how to take the front panel shows him cracking it, and that's the tutorial. At this point, my boss tells me to tell the customer that this can't be done unless he sends off the Surface to the manufacturer, who will be able to disassemble the machine safely, but this would take longer than he has to finish his dissertation. I'm not one to give up normally, so I let the customer know that there is one long shot chance to get his data. I can attempt to disassemble the Surface, but chances are I will break it, and it will not be usable once I get the disk out. Even after all of that, the issue could be with the hard drive, and the data won't be recoverable anyway. The customer says go for it, so I get it all down in writing, and we order a replacement Surface anyway, for either outcome. I get to work attempting to open the Surface, and crack the screen within the first 10 minutes. At this point, I'm thinking, well, he said it's okay to break it, and I've already broken it, so it's all or nothing. I start hammering the edge of the screen and tear the screen off. I see the tiny SSD sitting snug in the motherboard and take it out. Of course, we haven't got any M-SATA adapters anywhere, so I get our accounts guy to order one for the next day on Amazon Prime. This whole time my boss is telling me I'm wasting my time and I've broken our surface for no reason. But he is normally pretty hands off and lets me make my own mistakes. Regardless, I'm determined to get this guy's data. So once the adapter arrives, I plug in the hard drive holding my breath. Sure enough, the guy's data starts appearing and I'm able to open all his folders and documents without issue. I immediately start backing all of this up to our server and give the customer a call. I have never had a conversation make me feel better than that one. The dude was so happy and couldn't care less that I basically had to tear apart a working expensive computer in order to get his data. I loaded all the data he needed into his new Surface and we shipped it for him to receive the next day. The third story is called Your Job. I owned a small software company. The non-profit organization down the hall asked us if we would donate an hour once a week to help with IT, Active Directory and Exchange stuff. The manager there was a friend of mine from outside work. I agreed since it felt like a nice pro bono thing to do for a cause I supported, and she promised to be a gatekeeper. And for a long while, it worked out quite well. Once a week, one of us would walk down the hall to their suite. She'd give us a small list of IT honeydews. We'd even get cookies. She did a great job of keeping users under control and appreciated our donation of time and expertise. It was good karma. Then she left the organization. Stupidly, I thought nothing would change, so I go down there a couple weeks later for the usual IT and cookies. Karen is moving offices and needs help moving her computer. I'm a software developer, not a moving company. Goes through my head. Nevertheless, I help unplug everything from her standard desktop-sized workstation. I'm going to need your help carrying everything to my new office. I explain that I'm recovering from surgery and simply cannot carry heavy objects. She is miffed, but helps me get a card and we move the computer. This is back in the days of heavy, large CRT monitors, the ones that weigh close to 50 pounds. There's already an identical monitor, same brand, same size, in the new location. What about the monitor? She says. I've plugged the computer into the monitor that's already in your new office. It's identical, but I want my monitor. She points at the old one. Like I said, I can't carry heavy items. It's easier if you just move all your post-it notes from your old monitor to your new one. That's not my job, she says. That's your job. Move the monitor. And that was the screw this moment. I just lost it. Karen, this is very decidedly not my job. I volunteer my time here. I already told you I'm recovering from surgery and I'm not moving a 50-pound monitor for the same reason you won't. It's too heavy. You are on your own. I walk out, super upset. The following morning I went in again to talk to the executive director. I explained that we can't help with IT anymore. We have to focus on our own business and would not be donating any more time. I offered to send one of my colleagues down just to finish hooking up Karen's computer, but he would not be moving any heavy objects. And I'd be happy to recommend an IT consulting company for ongoing support. Of course, they have no choice, so that's what happens. Best part, when my coworker comes back from that last task, he tells me, guess what? I oblige. What? She moved the monitor. I can't believe it. Apparently, she figured out a way to haul that 50 pounds monstrosity of a monitor to her new desk. What happened to the monitor that was already there? I asked. It's still there. She asked me to move it to the old office. Now, these old CRT monitors are huge. There's barely enough room on a standard office cube desk for one of them, let alone two. Tell me you didn't move it, I plead. No way, he says. She barely has enough room now on that tiny desk for her beanie babies and telephone. The next story is called All the Software. I work for a large multi-million company in which software installation and removal demands admin rights. This is due to a large-scale hacker attack, which occurred before my time at the company. As one of the few IT admins, it's within my responsibility to install and remove software for all computers. One coworker of mine's laptop had seen its final days and needed to be retired. I got a message from him that he needed his PC swapped, and I said fine and asked him what kind of software he needed. He responded that he used everything, so I should install all we could. Keep in mind that we have software specified for roles within the company, and our company is freaking huge. I sent him the whitelisted software list and again asked him, "What software do you need, buddy?" He answered that he couldn't be bothered to look through it and that I should simply install it all. I popped the back of the poor new Lenovo machine and changed the hard disk. The original one would not be able to contain the amount of crap which was about to flood the gates. For an entire week I would work on this soon to be cursed machine. I swear I could hear it cry for me to stop, but I just kept feeding it software. Here's the kicker. Every time I installed anything, if it had the option, I would ask it to run at launch. I probably put 8 additional hours into this fresh machine, which very quickly works slower than a Windows Vista machine hooked up to a hamster on a wheel as its power supply. The 1TB SSD I installed took 15 minutes to boot up every single program, which would open at launch. The greatest thing was that he couldn't undo the startup at launch, because that required admin rights. To his credit, he lasted 2 weeks before he came back, apologized and asked for me to redo his machine. We are friends now, but he learned not to mess with the IT guys. The 5th story is called Dark Sense of Humor. I'm semi-retired, semi-burnt out old tech who left support in the big city to spend my declining years in a small country town, helping small business, home users and the occasional farmer. In spite of the fact that I left the city over 11 years ago, I still get a cry for help from the big city. This one came from a favorite client, a lawyer, and a very senior one at that. He had just moved on from his aging BlackBerry after many years of being prodded by his wife, who was an Apple fanatic. He now had a shiny fruit phone that he was rapidly growing fond of. After a couple of calls when he asked a few simple how-to type questions, he was very happy with the new phone. Till a couple of weeks later, when I got a panicked phone call. "There's something wrong with my phone. I am missing calls. It doesn't ring anymore. Should I return it?" Look on the side of the phone. "Remember, I told you how to turn the ring off so you won't be disturbed in court? Is the mute switch on? Oh, you know that I deal with the criminal element on a daily basis and that I could engage any number of people to ensure your silence? Yes, I trust that you are going to be discreet. Not tell my wife about this. I wouldn't hear the end of it. I promised to remain silent forever and that his wife wouldn't learn of it from me, provided the account was settled promptly." We both laughed. A few days later, I received a small wooden box in the mail that included a check, a bottle of great rum, and a note that read, "As agreed." I love a client with a sense of humor. The last story is called Always Consult IT First. We have this manager in my organization. Let's call him Phil. Phil is one of those guys that needs help with IT, but acts like he knows what he's talking about. He read an article on a Raspberry Pi a few years back, and he's been telling me ever since about how everyone in the organization should have one. Phil decided that his team needed laptops. No real reason. They have desktops and don't need to move around the office at all. Laptops are just cool. Now, as a member of the IT team, it's policy that he comes through me when ordering hardware, so I can make sure that they are the right spec, pro operating system, etc. But Phil doesn't like this. He's found this cool offer on some awesome laptops that are good value, and he's so confident in his IT knowledge that he doesn't want to check them with me. He's ordered 4 of them for a total price of £1,200. I make my manager aware of his idiocy and carry on with my day. The laptops arrive and I get to work setting them up. Before I even get a chance to check the specs, I'm already met with an issue. The keyboard is in a US layout. I didn't think it was even possible to get these in the UK, but of course Phil managed it. Typical Phil. Never mind, it's gonna be a better share in the future, but it's their own fault. I try to attach the laptop to the network, but I'm hit with another hurdle. These laptops don't even have a backslash on them. I can't log into the domain without using the backslash. I change the keyboard to the UK layout in the control panel and try again, mashing keys randomly, hoping that one will show a backslash symbol. Not one. What kind of laptop doesn't have a backslash on the keyboard? One that Phil orders, of course. I then have to round up 4 keyboards for these laptops. Don't worry, I made sure that these keyboards were UK layout. And I, of course, confirmed that they had a backslash on them. I spent hours installing software on these laptops and the usual checks when commissioning hardware. After hours of dealing with these slow, awful laptops, I finished the last one and took it down. Hey Phil, here's the last one. Thanks. So how come we had to get keyboards again? Well, they need keyboards to type a backslash and log into the network. Oh, okay. So if they need to have a keyboard attached, they are not too portable. We might as well have stuck with our desktops. Well, yes, I guess you could have. Well, that was a waste of money. You could have just told me that in the first place. I spent hours of my time trying to polish a turd, and then they didn't even want it. Not even a thank you or an apology. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.